What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Part 2 of finding a breakout on every single team. On Wednesday, we went over the NFC, and today we're going to do the AFC. Pretty simple. The goal is just to look at every team, find who is the most likely to break out. And now for some teams, that might be into running back 1. For some, might be breakout into fantasy relevance. Really just depends on how many players we can look at on each team. Before we start, remember, the website is up and running now. Bunch of free data, all my rankings, a bunch of other stuff. So check that out, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, link in the description. But let's just start the video. So we're going to start off with the AFC East, and we'll start off with Dawson Knox on the Buffalo Bills. Now, he ended his rookie season with 28 for 388 and 2 touchdowns. You know, that's not a great season, but it's respectable for a rookie tight end. He ended the season playing at least 70% of the snaps in 5 of his last 6 games after doing so just twice over the first 9 weeks. That's something we see a ton with rookie tight ends. Not playing much to start, but then once they learn the offense, once they become more acclimated to the NFL, they play a lot more in the end of the season, and they're going to perform more in their second and third seasons. They add Diggs and they add Moss, and that means that Brown, Beasley, Singletary, they're all going to be kind of like sharing this workload and targets from last season, so that hurts all of their upside. But if you look at the tight end position, there's no competition behind Knox for targets. And while I don't think he has like a true breakout this season, I know it's a breakout video, but if we're saying what's the best season of his career, probably not this one. Like, this will probably not be the best season of his career, but I do think he is a valuable late-round pick in fantasy, and I do think of anyone on the Bills, if anyone's going to break out, Knox is the guy. On Miami, we've got Mike Gesicki. You guys know he is definitely one of my favorite late-round tight ends this season. Had a rough rookie season, to put it nicely, but then played really well down the stretch last year, scoring double-digit fantasy points in 5 of his last 9 games, including 4 top 5 finishes in those 9 weeks. He has an incredible athletic profile, and there's even talk they're going to use him in the slot at times this season. So they want to use him as a receiver, and he's got plenty of talent to make that work. He is genuinely one of the best late-round picks right now, and I just think he has a great chance of breaking out. If anyone I talk about today, he's one of my favorites. Patriots up next, and their top potential breakout is N'Keal Harry. Believe me, I know he had a dreadful rookie season. He just couldn't make it onto the field before week 11. Finished with 12 receptions on 24 targets, then a pathetic playoff game. And honestly, there was just nothing positive about his performance as a rookie. However, he was still a first-round pick. He still has a 90th percentile speed score, 95th percentile breakout age. We know those are the leading indicators for success in the NFL. And the Patriots aren't just going to give up on him after half of just a bad season. And basically just half, because remember I said couldn't make it on the field for week 11. So he's going to open the season as the backup to Edelman, but still playing a bunch of snaps. I do think he plays more and gets more looks than Mohamed Sanu. And there's a good amount of upside in that role. The question is he a bust? That's basically the question we need to have answered. Or was it just he needs a season to develop? Hopefully, it's the latter. Last AFC East team is the Jets, and we've got Denzel Mims. You guys also know he is one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft class, maybe my favorite receiver, and the landing spot was just fantastic. He'll easily join Crowder as the top receiving options, and he'll be the go-to red zone option. 96th percentile speed score, 90th percentile burst score, 96th percentile catch radius, and early breakout age, and is most comparable athletically to Chris Godwin. I think he will be a valuable fantasy starter by the middle of the season, and no other Jets player has even close to as much breakout potential as Mims. Moving on to the AFC North, we'll start off with the Baltimore Ravens and J.K. Dobbins. Now, you guys have heard my take on Dobbins before. I think Ingram opens the season as the starter, and that Dobbins takes more and more work as the season goes on before a true swap in touches happens maybe by the middle to late in the season at the earliest. And I say maybe because that might not happen until next season. We could see the entire year go by where Ingram is always the guy. However, if we are looking for a breakout, then Dobbins has by far the best chance on the Ravens. Gus Edwards had 130 plus carries in each of the last 2 seasons, which we should consider Dobbins' floor. And we know what will happen if Ingram goes down. Dobbins is instantly a running back 1 in fantasy. And honestly, like I said, there's a chance that by mid to late season, he takes over and he becomes, I guess if Ingram is still there, more of a high end 2 if he takes over the starting point. But Ingram is turning 31, and we already know they were limiting his touches last season. So Dobbins, through multiple channels, has a path to a breakout. Onto the Bengals, where the only option I see is Joe Burrow. I'm not saying Higgins or Ross can't break out, but if they do, then it's probably because Burrow broke out. And honestly, I do expect Burrow to play really well. He is surrounded by talent at all positions, maybe not tight end, but most positions, and he is a really good quarterback prospect. I mean, he's got Green, Higgins, Boyd, Ross, Mixon. That's a much better supporting cast than a lot of teams have, and it's just a better situation than most rookie quarterbacks find themselves walking into. And I don't know 100% where he's going to end up going in drafts, but I think this offense is going to surprise a lot of people, and I think Burrow's going to end up being yet another quarterback we can look at in the later rounds. Onto the Browns, where we have no one. You know, it's sad to say, but I truly do not see a path to any player breaking out on this team. You've got Hunt and Chubb locking down the backfield. You've got targets dispersed between Odell, Landry, Hooper, and just everyone else getting the leftovers. So I guess you could point to Baker, and maybe he improves in his second season with Odell and after adding Hooper. But sorry, I just don't see a single player who's going to have a breakout season. People are going to have good seasons, but they already broke out, or they're already good, or they're not going to have a season much better than they've had before. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers, where, of course, we have Deontay Johnson. He had a quietly fantastic rookie season, 59 for 680 yards and 4 touchdowns, including 4 wide receiver 1 weeks, while averaging 6.5 targets per game in the second half of the season, and playing with Mason Rudolph and Devlin Hodges at quarterback. I mean, that's not good. That's not a good supporting cast for him. And we have to assume that Big Ben's going to return this season. And if he does, I expect Johnson to take another step forward. And yet he's currently being drafted 10 spots worse than his finish from last season. So until people start to wake up to how good of a value he is, he remains one of the better late round picks. That is it for the AFC North. Move on to the AFC South. And the first team up is the Houston Texans, where Will Fuller is the most likely player to break out. Would you believe me if I said he has never been over 50 receptions or 675 yards? I was looking that up and I was shocked. I mean, last season was the best of his career. And then he only had 49 for 670 and 3 touchdowns, plus 14 for 217, and all 3 of those touchdowns came in 1 game. That's crazy, but it shows how big of an issue injuries have been over his career. He misses at least a month every year with some sort of injury, and that can be really frustrating. So I get it if you just don't want to draft him at all. Completely understand. But if we're looking for breakouts, he checks all of the boxes. An aggressive offense, an elite quarterback, and they just lost a player averaging over 160 targets per season over the last 3 years. They did bring in Cooks, they bring in Cobb, but neither of them are target hogs, and they each have their own concerns as well. So if Fuller can stay healthy this season, which is a massive if, but if he can, then he could absolutely be a wide receiver 1 in fantasy. So hopefully he just develops a new stretching routine or something, because it would be really fun to watch him play a full 16 weeks, no Hopkins, as just the guy in the offense, because I do think he would be pretty easily the top receiving threat. The Colts are up next, and this was the toughest decision I had to make on any team, and that includes the NFC video. The 2 big breakout candidates are Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman. Both should have a really good rookie season, and I like both of their chances of breaking out. But if we're determining between the two who has the highest ceiling in week 1, it's got to be Taylor. 99th percentile speed score, over 2,000 yards per season at Wisconsin, and a better receiving profile than most people are going to give him credit for. I know Mac is there, and I like Mac as much as anyone. I was drafting him a ton in these mock drafts before this news. But Taylor is just better, and the lead back in this offense has incredible upside. So I'm picking Taylor as the most likely to break out, but I do think that Pittman has a really good rookie season. Next up is the Jaguars. We have DJ Chark. I know they drafted Laviska Shenault in the second round, but I see Shenault taking more work away from Westbrook, Conley, Fournette, not as much Chark. He's the clear alpha in the receiving game, and he's got the profile to suggest last year was not a fluke. Early draft capital, 96th percentile speed score, early breakout age, and now he has a 1,000-yard season before turning age 24. In fact, only 22 wide receivers have ever posted a season like Chark's before turning 24. And if you look at the list, he's in pretty good company. So I expect big things from him entering his third season, and I promise he will be undervalued in drafts because people do not view him as a stud wide receiver. If you watch this channel, you probably will. But most people don't watch this channel, and they don't view him as a stud. But he is. Tennessee Titans up next, and Jonnu Smith is most likely to break out. Smith, he improved over his first 3 seasons every single year, got better, better, better. And now with Delaney Walker gone, the tight end role is entirely Smith's. 83rd percentile speed score, 94th percentile burst score, 93rd percentile spark score, and a 100th percentile breakout age. So this isn't just a situation where a bad player is going to be getting more targets. Smith is good, and he can post some solid numbers if they give him the looks. Plus, let's think about it. What does it take to be a tight end 1? Jason Witten was a tight end 1 last season, the tight end 12, I believe. Posted 63 for 539 and 4 touchdowns. That is well within Smith's range of outcomes, especially if his Titans increase from less than 27 pass attempts per game, which was the lowest by a good chunk last season. So add Smith to the list of just like a million tight ends I've said are viable in fantasy, and I truly believe are viable in fantasy. Final division is the AFC West, and we have the Denver Broncos up first, and Noah Fant. Here's a list of 21 or 22-year-old rookie tight ends over the last 40 years to post more than 40 receptions, 550 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Aaron Hernandez. That's it. Rookie tight ends never do anything, but Fant was able to do so even enduring half a season with Joe Flacco and the other half with a rookie quarterback. Now, both he and Locke are entering their second seasons while bringing in more weapons. And I know people are concerned about these targets, but listen, they're probably going to increase from the 6th fewest pass attempts in the league and dead last in touchdowns per game. I mean, think about that. They barely threw the ball, could never score, dead last in touchdowns. And yet in his rookie season, he was able to finish as a tight end 16 thanks to above 94th percentile athleticism in every single metric and being most comparable to George Kittle. Last season, I said wait a year before targeting him in drafts, and here we are. So now is the time to take him. Kansas City is up next, and their top candidate is obviously Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You guys know I love him. Incredible landing spot, and you don't need to be all that good at the running back position to excel in this offense. So the upside's unreal if you add a running back of his skill level to the offense. You hear this stat all offseason, but Damian Williams averaged 22.6 points per game in the 8 games where he had at least 12 touches last season. That's good enough to finish as the running back 19, even if you take a 0 for the other 8 games. Obviously, he got hurt, so most of his healthy weeks came a little bit in the middle and then towards the end of the season and in the playoffs. But it highlights the upside of a healthy running back in this offense. And you better believe Clyde's going to get those touches. After Mahomes asked for him specifically, they spend a first-round pick on him, and he is extremely talented. He's much more talented than Damian Williams. So He should have a breakout season as long as he doesn't get hurt. Next team is the Oakland Raiders, and I wanted to say Josh Jacobs here because I do think he makes a jump into the elite tier of running back, but I thought people would yell at me for that one since he did technically already break out. So I think Jacobs has a good year, but we won't count him. So my pick is Henry Ruggs with one caveat. I like, in Dynasty, Bryan Edwards more, given where you can get him. Obviously, straight up, you're taking Ruggs, but given where they go in drafts, I would prefer taking Edwards if I'm picking between the two of them. But this is a season-long video, and Ruggs has the best chance of breaking out on this season. He lit up the combine, showing just insane burst off the line, 100 percentile straight line speed, and I have my concerns about the aggressiveness and overall talent level of Derek Carr, but all players in this offense, you put them all in a bucket and you say, who has the most upside? It is without question the kid that can run with 100th percentile speed that they just took, 12th or 15th overall, can't remember off the top of my head, but took him very early as the top wide receiver in one of the best wide receiver classes we've seen in a while. So I think that if he and Carr can get on the same page, he's got a ton of upside, especially in best spot leagues. That's where I would target him a little bit more. Last team we'll go over today is the Los Angeles Chargers. And the only player that I can see breaking out is Joshua Kelly. I think Joe Reed will be good in the return game, and I think they can use him in some interesting ways on offense. But his ceiling is extremely capped behind Williams and Allen. And Kelly, on the other hand, has a pretty clear path to touches. He should beat out Justin Jackson for the backup role, and that means he'll get work right out of the gate. And I know they just signed Eckler to a pretty big deal, but they don't want to give him 20 carries a game. I mean, he only averaged 14 per week in the games that Gordon missed last season. They would much rather keep him around that 12 to 14 number and then give him, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 targets sometime in the receiving game. But the rest of the volume should go to Kelly, and we need to consider the upside if Eckler got hurt. Kelly is great in pass protection, offers a 3-down skill set, so they could absolutely use him in the Melvin Gordon role, and he'd likely be a low-end running back 1 if that ever happened. So there definitely is another player with that sort of upside on this offense. So those are some potential breakout players on every single AFC team this time around. Remember that you can see the rest of my players to target, the rest of my players to avoid, and just the overall rankings at our website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. That's the end of this one. Hope you all did enjoy. If you did, how about hitting the like button? And how about subscribing to the channel if you're new? Thanks for watching.